Peter Roebuck, to go to the issue of the control and clout, if you like, because that's a word I've heard used this week, of, say, the Board of Control for Cricket in India or Cricket Australia, in the way that the organisational arms of the sport in the case of cricket have acted, what's your assessment there? Did they inflame a situation or work to reduce the tension?
Well, I think they, particularly in India, they were under some pressure to appease their own supporters, to appease their gallery, if you like. I mean, it's a colossal people's game. Their emotions run very high. The frenzy is there. Television channels, particularly, are building it up, not pulling it down. So I think that the BCI probably was trying to tread that line. The problem in cricket, as opposed, say, to soccer and perhaps tennis, I don't know, is that the international body is really not that strong. It's as strong as the constituent parts are prepared to make it, which is not very. Therefore, the ICC can say this and say that, but if India doesn't want to go along with it, then there's a problem, and the Australians are perhaps a bit the same. These are the two international powerhouses. The Indians are saying, enough. We've been pushed around enough over the years. Whether we're right or wrong in this particular thing, we're going to stand up to be counted now. Not only that, we're an advanced nation, a nuclear power, 1.2 billion people, one of the booming economies of the world. We're not going to be pushed around anymore, come what may. And I don't know they chose the right battleground on this occasion, but that's their assertion. The Australians, on the other hand, are saying, well, we realise the need to become broader in our outlook, but we're not used to being confronted this way. And when they were confronted in that way, they had some difficulties with it in handling it. I suspect that the Indians will pull their heads in, and that the Australians will try and advance. I mean, good may come of this.
Right, and of course, it needs to be remembered that just in straight financial terms, India is absolutely, unequivocally, the financial powerhouse of the game. Am I right in saying that something like 70% of the international finances generated by cricket are generated in the subcontinent?
They are. It's television contracts. I mean, television contracts drive sport, make no mistake. It's not the big crowds in India or even the vast following, because they've got televisions nowadays. The growing middle class in India, the use of cable and satellite television, these are the things, even the internet, these are the things that are driving the game. That article I wrote, which was a one article written by one journalist on one day, got 550,000 hits.
Which is indicative of just what a nerve it touched, isn't it?
It is, and it's also indicative of how high the game sits in the imaginations of the two countries involved. And therefore, all the more reason for us not to put it aside as a sort of game over there somewhere, but to treat it in an adult, mature, political way, and to say, okay, this is something that's going haywire at the moment, but jeeps, it's also a big opportunity to advance the relationships between the two countries and the way both countries conduct themselves. We're focusing on Australia here, but how about in India? We don't have quite so many conspiracy theories. How about in India? We don't have a great frenzy every time we don't get our way. There's also the other side of this argument as well, that the truth of the matter is that both parties need to treat their sport with a higher level of maturity.
Absolutely, and just to come to that phrase you used then, Peter Roebuck, of growing the game in the imagination, Debbie Sims, as I read the Essence of Sport document, there's a clear message it seems to be sending not only to sports administrators but also coaches within schools and parents that what we almost have to do is to grow in children's imagination that being good at sport is as important as being a good sport, or even the other way around, that fair play and enjoyment have to be elevated to the point of being as important as winning. Is that right? And is it a hard thing to do to convince parents and school officials that getting back to a sense that winning isn't everything is important?
I think so. It's more about that winning is still important, but that, as I was saying before, it's about how you win, and that fair play and respect have to be given, I suppose, equal value or equal priority to winning, because kids need to learn how to win and to lose, because that's part of everything we do in life. You know, we get a job, we don't get a job. It's in every aspect. So sport is a valuable tool to teach kids the skills on how to cope with winning and losing. But I think too much emphasis is perhaps, particularly at the younger age, is given on winning and winning at all costs. So yes, certainly a focus is on trying to educate coaches, teachers, etc., that fair play and respect need to be given at least equal value and equal priority. And getting back to your question, it's going to be hard.
Indeed. Is it clear that when children see poor behaviour, that they model that poor behaviour? If they see someone smash a tennis racket on the ground, do they start to smash tennis rackets on the ground in fits of pique?
I've had that exact situation happen with my own son.
Oh, really?
Research does actually show that they do model behaviours on their heroes. Athletes may not have a choice in terms of being a role model. They're actually chosen by kids, by others. And certainly this was the case with my son, who is extremely well-mannered. Very, I would hope. Anyway, I've been told that all the time. Doesn't lose his temper, but just before Christmas, playing in a tennis tournament, and got frustrated and threw his racket and buckled it, and spoke to him afterwards and said, that's so unlike you. Where did you get this from? Why did you do that? And he had been watching a show on TV which was looking at highlighting all the bad behaviour of sports people. It was one of those, 100 top poor behaviour sort of thing. And there was lots of tennis players in there, basically throwing tantrums, throwing their rackets. And he doesn't understand why, but it influenced his behaviour. And certainly there's a lot of research to say that if children aspire and have other athletes that they look up to, that they will model their behaviour. So if those athletes are behaving in a way, both on the field and off the field, in a way that's inappropriate, there's a good chance that the kids won't see that as inappropriate. They will just see that's what you do to be a good athlete and will model some of that behaviour.
All is not lost. Brett Lee is very popular in India. Sachin Tendulkar is very popular here. It's perfectly possible for this to happen. It's not that far away. And as I say, I felt the important thing in Sydney, this bad blood was going to linger for years if we let it. There had to be a bloodletting. We had to get this whole thing out in the open, fierce debate, everyone arguing, falling out, and all kinds of recriminations occurring. And then hopefully from that, you get a situation where the game goes forward, Australia learns from its mistakes, India learns from its mistakes, and captains on both sides and so on and so forth go forwards. Australia, after all, is playing a one-day series against India right now. It's also going to India for a big tour in September, October. I don't believe after the Sydney Test match that would have been a very happy experience. I now very much hope that subsequent to this bloodletting, that people will raise the levels of sportsmanship on both sides and in the crowd with the manners that Debbie was talking about and the graciousness in victory and defeat that Debbie was talking about and the people she was speaking to, because it's really the public we're touching out to here. I don't see any reason why that can't go well after Sydney.
This has focused people on a couple of points. One, it's highlighted the importance of having some cultural awareness and cultural understanding and sensitivity. As Peter was saying before, things are interpreted differently. And I think now, particularly sporting administrators, will take that on board a little bit more and perhaps provide some greater education, particularly for their international representatives. And I think it's also highlighted that at whatever level we are playing at, that we each individually have a responsibility to behave in a way that we would be proud of, that we would be proud of our kids to be behaving in that way, or that they'd be proud of us. So I think it's highlighted back that importance, it goes far beyond just yourself, that you have this broader influence on the community and on how we're seen, particularly around the world. And I think it's probably just focused people a little bit more on that importance of the role we each have to play.
Debbie Sims and Peter Roebuck, thank you so much for being on The Sports Factor here on ABC Radio National.
Thanks for having me.
Debbie Sims, Manager of the Sports Ethics Unit at the Australian Institute of Sport, and cricket writer and commentator Peter Roebuck. And to read the Essence of Sport document, you can go to the AIS website, aussport.gov.au, and you'll also find a link on our webpage. Thanks to Andrew Davies for producing the program and to Peter McMurray for technical production, and also to Sabrina Lipovic from ABC Radio Archives. The ABC Radio National webpage is where you should go to listen online, read a transcript, or download the show to your portable MP3 player. I'm Mick O'Regan. Thanks for listening.